Well, hello, everyone. It is great to be with you again. This is Joyce Davis. I'm president and CEO of the World Affairs Council of Harrisburg. And some of you may also know I'm Penn Live's outreach and opinion editor, but I wear a bunch of hats like most women have to do, right? We are here today, and this is so exciting. We are culminating our month-long celebration of Women's History Month. We started with a special webinar on International Women's Day, looking at issues women are facing around the globe. And today we're focusing in now on one special group of women, female artists, women who express themselves and actually express our deepest feelings through their works, through their arts. And so, look, we know this has been a tough period for everyone, but I know it's been tough for our women artists. And that's why we're here. We have 4 now acclaimed artists, acclaimed locally, nationally, and internationally. So you're going to be in for a treat to really hear just what they've been going through and how they're going about expressing themselves, what the challenges are, what the opportunities are. Before I turn it over to my co-host in crime, which is Dana Junghari, glad to have you here with me. Welcome, Dana. This is Dana's debut as a co-host.
It is, and I'm excited. I am so excited, yes.
Well, we're looking forward to, yes, I see Ashley's jumping at the big, but before we get started, I do want to remind our associates and all of the people who may be watching this, please get vaccinated. WAC is on a mission to save lives. We have partnered with the Pennsylvania Health Management Corporation to promote vaccinations, just as we did with Temple University in Harrisburg a few months back. So we are urging everyone to please vaccinate your children up to the age, I think, over the age of 5. Vaccinate yourself, get boosted, protect yourselves. And if you need help, we're here to help you. Just email us, wacharrisburg@gmail.com or vaccineswac@gmail.com. We will help you get there. We might even give you a $10 gift certificate. So if you get vaccinated. So with that, I've done my promo. Let's get started on our Women and the Arts webinar. Dina, I've just told them they got a bunch of acclaimed women here that are going to talk to them. Tell us who they are.
I am so honored and so excited to be able to introduce to you all 4 fabulous ladies today. So we're going to first start with Miss Donna Jackson. She is the president of Women's Caucus of Art. She is the founder of DMJ Studio, a creative studio that focuses on narratives that matter to us as women, people of color, urban dwellers, and global citizens. The studio desires is to make art and culture accessible everywhere and to everyone. In 2020, DMJ Studios began an online gallery for women called Women's Work Art Gallery. And in 2022, Miss Donna Jackson was named president of Women's Caucus of Art for Art. Thank you for being here. And our next speaker is going to be Ashley Nicole. Now, Ashley Nicole was a film and darkroom photographer major in college, but PTSD effects of a rape and stalking experience impacted her creativity for a number of years. After working with a trauma therapist on her healing journey, Ashley continued making art. Yes, I can't wait to hear your story too. She's the author and artist of Found, Still Lost, a collection of art and poetry centered around grief and trauma and published by Sunbury Press. Christina Titi. Hi, Christina Titi is the founder and president of Oaks of Central PA, a 501c3, whose mission is to empower, promote, and advocate for the African immigrants and refugee community in the greater Harrisburg area. And Christine hails from Bali and the Northwest region of Cameroon. All right. Raina, 76, born in Harrisburg in 1976, known as Raina 76, artist R76, is an abstract expressionist and graduate of HU, Howard University, is an outsider artist who wants the arts created to heal those suffering from domestic violence and depression. So these are our featured artists, and I cannot wait to get started to hear their story.
Wonderful. This is a great introduction. We're ready to get started. And I guess the first question that we are going to, let me remove the pen here. I always do this and then I can't remove the pen. So before we get started, I just want ladies to take a deep breath because we're going to delve into you, helping us understand what you're about as an artist. Look, not all of us can be as creative and as free-flowing with our emotions and with our thoughts and with our paintbrushes like Raina as you are. So help us know, first of all, a little bit about your work and then a little bit about just how you're doing now during this period. So why don't we get started with Miss Donna Jackson, who is representing actually the Association of Women Artists. Donna?
Hello, I was hoping someone else was going first. But
You got the pens this time.
So a little bit about myself before I talk about the organization. I am Donna Jackson, artist from Detroit, Michigan. And my artwork focuses particularly, I paint, I draw, I write. And most of the things that I create personally are about women and about my narrative or finding my comfortability in my skin as woman. And that's something I've been doing for a very long time. I would say probably consistently since 2010. Sometimes it takes people like myself a long time to say, yes, I'm an artist, especially coming from blue collar state and city like Detroit, where, play hard, work hard. But now I'm comfortable being in that artist space and creating this art that allows me to be comfortable in my space as a woman. So a lot of the art that you see, it's definitely abstract, but it still works with the female form. And I can't say that I am a traditional artist because I actually started as an engineer. And the art was truly there for me to understand who I am. So I had no real desire to show my art. I just think I ended up making so much, I had no choice. To have it just sitting in my house becomes really, I'm not honoring the talent. So I'm sharing this. And then I find that I'm connecting with others with similar stories and learning from others with that story. So that's the art portion. Because I have this engineer mind, this product management mind, I also develop cultural experiences for my city, for people, because I think it's important to have access to culture. And so developing exhibitions, developing events, or just talks so that people can understand the power of narrative through visual arts. And a lot of that, of course, comes from the same space that I live in, being woman, being Black, brown, being a Detroiter, all these things are important, and it comes through my art. And this development of platforms got me a chance to become part of Women's Caucus for Art. And just as I continue working in that space with that organization, I'm now the president of that organization with this very intentional goal of expanding that organization to more access to Black, brown people, Black, brown women, and definitely our young and up and coming artists. So that's where I am now. That's the story. I'm sticking with it.
I got it. But tell me, I guess I'm curious a little bit more about the organization. How many members do you have? Is it spread out across the United States? How do you keep it going? What do you do?
So it started in 1972, very much around the feminist movement. Right now we have over 1,100 members, and it is national, and we are expanding. We have chapters in different states and different cities. So if you're interested in becoming a member, you can become a national member, or you can become national as well as a chapter member. And the goal is to support women in their growth as artists, in their careers as artists, and also giving them network to connect with other women who are artists as well. So that's the main goal. But there, because it came out of the feminist movement, there's that activist part of this. And activism is very important, especially these days. It's very hard not to be activated in something, right? And so art and activism in many ways goes hand in hand. And this is an organization that really values some people that love or want to work in both of those spaces.
And the organization is all genres, or mainly the visual arts or the painting?
It is mainly visual arts, but any medium in the visual arts. So if you are a painter, sculptor, illustrator, designer, if you are an art educator, if you are an art collector or art enthusiast, this is an organization for you. And I do hope as we grow, we create a ally part of this organization so that we can give space for some of our male counterparts to support us in our work.
Got it. All right, well, that's a good comprehensive view there. I think I'm going to turn to another genre, and we're going to bring in Ashley Nicole. Ashley, would you unmute and tell us about yourself, your work, and how you doing, sister?
Well, thanks. I just, before I kind of dive in, I want to thank you, Joyce, and the World Affairs Council of Harrisburg for sponsoring this space where we can talk openly and honestly about being women in the arts community. It's kind of rare to have this environment intentionally cultivated. I think sometimes we bump into each other and try to have these sprawling conversations like real quick, in an art gallery or over a coffee. And it's just nice to have an intentional space. So thank you. That said, I'm Ashley Nicole Wacoviak, and like most artists and creative souls, I feel like my art journey has had many wardrobe changes, right? I first began studying film and darkroom photography when I was 13. Not because my family could actually afford such a costly hobby, but because my mom helped out administering a high school diploma program at our local high school. And as a thank you for that, the director, Sam Gruber, shout out to Sam, let me pick up class to take in the evenings. So in addition to learning the technical tools of photography at a young age, the art form taught me how to see the world in a new way. When I looked through the eye of the camera in my hand, I was no longer looking with my own eyes, not the eyes of the church I was raised in, or the eyes of pop culture, or the eyes of my peers. Like all artists who bond with a particular medium, I suddenly had the power to see an unseen kind of reality before me, to frame my own story kind of in a new way, to tell a story but without any words. And that became instrumental for me in my healing journey after I was raped and stalked at age 17. So again, very young, some deep trauma roots there. And after that, when I finally had the gumption to pick up a camera again, what I saw through the lens was a life I wanted to create, the life that I wanted to live in. But it didn't take long before I discovered I lacked the capability of making that life a reality, because instead of reaching out when I was young, I suppressed what happened to me, and my mind did what it needed to do in order to survive, which is a beautiful thing. But it was time for me to begin dealing with it and begin a new journey toward healing. So fast forward a little bit, and I started doing some photography work and trying to create this new life and working with a trauma therapist. And I got asked to model. And I had this huge, deeply embedded, bodily, sort of visceral response to this. And I realized that I was living with an enormous amount of fear. And I was carrying that fear and anxiety around with me every minute of every day. So at the same time that I was, going through therapy, and I actually went through hypnosis therapy with my wonderful counselor, I started saying yes to these fine art modeling gigs. And I want to be clear here, I'm talking fine art, not like pinup Playboy stuff.
We got it. We got it.
All right, cool. All right. I just want to be real clear about this.
I hear you.
It was more about an equal exchange of energy, and so by stepping then suddenly to the other side of the lens or the canvas or the sketch pad, I was forced to reintegrate into my body, and I was forced to kind of face those demons and heal. But I still needed a place to find, I still needed an outlet for all of that emotion and that lingering fear. So enter writing. And so since then, I've channeled probably every aspect of trauma into writing, and I'm blessed that Sunbury Press just released a book around grief and trauma aspects of that journey. And I've loved sitting down with groups and talking about trauma and the healing power of art. And I'm going to stop talking now because I feel like that was very, very long.
No, it wasn't very, very long. We were riveted. I can guarantee you we were. Dina, what she's brought out here is that art very much is an expression, is a healing tool that we can use in it seems like all genres of art are healing tools. Painting as well as where we're going now. Unless Dina wants to ask her anything, we'll move to, and we'll come back and talk a little bit more, but that was really, really quite compelling. And we'll move to Christina, who I know is the spoken word person here. She's joined us many times, and she is truly a riveting speaker. But Christina, tell us about you and about your journey.
Yeah, thank you, Joyce, for this opportunity. I know when I got the email, I'm like, I'm an artist. I was like, Joyce, I'm not sure you got the right person. But she ignored my email. And so that's why I'm here, because
there you go.
But yes, I like what was shared just recently about art being a form of expressing your feelings and a form of healing. I had always written. I was not really the spoken type, I used to write a lot, especially when I was back home. But I sort of lost that passion to write. But then when the pandemic came, and I was like, let me write. Let me get back to writing. And then I asked myself, but what do I want to write about? Then I started recalling all I had been through all these years. And I was like, I should tell my story. I should tell my story. I should tell the story of other people, what they have been through. And as I was writing and sharing my story, there was a point when I wanted to hold back. I didn't want to put everything out there, especially, I spoke about my divorce. I spoke about my daughter who was diagnosed with a speech delay, and all the hurts that I was feeling at that time. When I started writing, they were coming, it was uncontrollable, but then I still wanted to control it. I'm like, I can't have all the story out there. I don't want people to see that part of me. I should hide it. But I'm a faith person, I'm spiritual, believe in God and all that. And God kept speaking to me, basically saying that this is no longer your story, Christine. It is my story. And if you hold on to it, then you are depriving someone else of their healing. You have to let it go. That's the only way you move forward, is letting it go. So from then, I put everything down. I put everything down, and it was so amazing that I had people call me and say, what happened to your daughter is what I'm going through with my own daughter, and I don't know how to face it, and then I started speaking and started, just counseling people and saying, no, it's okay, it's going to go better. This is how I felt. It's okay to feel that way. Then you have to find a way to deal with it. So that's when I started realizing that, wow, there is power in the voice, right? There's power in being vulnerable, because before we thought vulnerability is something we want to hide. It's not something we want the whole world to see. But then when you start, going through this art journey, you realize that you have to be vulnerable. That is no longer something to be ashamed about. It's no longer something to hide, but it's actually a tool that you can, as an artist, can use to connect with the people and then build, help them to in their own journey. So that's how I started. So now at this point, I write whatever. If I'm sad, if I'm happy, I put that down. If I hear a story about someone, I put myself in their position. I write that down. I speak it like Joyce said, and I just lay myself bare to be used. I'm like, you know what? If my story, if the fact that I can speak, if the fact that I can be vulnerable and I can express myself can help someone else in their journey, then that's really worth it. Thank you.
The theme I'm hearing, I don't know if you're
Mhm.
hearing the same theme.
Mhm.
These women really are about service. They're using their art to help other people, to express them, to heal themselves. Yeah.
Yes.
But the bigger issue seems to be, what other woman or person even can I help lift along the way? Am I wrong about that? Am I getting the wrong
You're
impression?
right. You're right.
You're absolutely right. And before we go to the next person, I want to say we as women, we tend to, that word vulnerability, there's strength in that word. And then it was your testimony. So you went through that test, but only to overcome that, you have to share it, because to bottle it all up, that's a story that needs to be told. So then you just, once your story is out there, then everybody starts coming to you and they're like, oh my gosh, that's the connectedness.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's what we're here for today, to
Well,
connect.
that message is coming across so clear, but it's also, I think, key to the power, each one of your powers, that it's really not just about you. It's about you, but it's about also the connections and helping others. But let me bring in, I did save the best for last. I love Raina. I just love her so much. She is one of our local artists. And I'm going to ask Raina now to unmute herself and to tell us about her journey.
Thank you, ladies. Listen, we are all the best.
Yes,
And
that's
believe
right.
me, I feel that and I truly believe that. And thank you again. I'm sorry. I'm in my studio here at the Millworks, and there may be some background
That's
noise
fine,
here. Okay.
Raina.
So,
That's fine.
okay. My apologies. My name is Raina Ercilia Aguilar Wooden. I'm African American and Venezuelan. I was born in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, but raised in West Philadelphia in Powelton Village in the early 80s. And a lot of my experiences in terms of art come from the Philadelphia area. My mother, unfortunately, didn't feel comfortable teaching us her language, so I was predominantly raised African American. And that introduced me to a lot of that form of art and that community. At the age of 12, we were moved to Susquehanna County. My grandparents were farmers and they were losing their land at that time. And my father had to move us there to help them. And so I was thrust into literally a rural Pennsylvania, all white community. We were one of 3 people or families of color there. And a lot of the art that I was introduced to from the age of 14 to 18 was Eurocentric art. I kind of lost my identity. I was trying to assimilate to that. I was just trying to survive. And I really didn't see any power in art at that time. It wasn't until I went to Howard University that I embraced who I am, and and I fell in love with the diaspora. I fell in love with my own culture, and I wanted just to express that. But I went to school for business. no one in my bloodline believes that art is a profession. And so I struggled with that for a very long time. And it wasn't until I moved back to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, that I felt like, okay, I feel very creative. And I was introduced to a group of underground artists here, and that started my journey. And in between that, I encountered some personal struggles, and art saved my life. And so now, today, I believe that we all have a voice through art, and that you don't have to be wealthy or educated or well known or popular to enjoy and collect art. And so that is my mission.
Well, that is a very valuable mission. Thank you, Raina. And Raina, tell us about Millworks, where you are, where your studio is, so that if any of the people watching want to come and see your art or buy some of your art, where are you? Tell us.
So the Millworks is a building. It's an old wood mill from World War I, and it's been restored. And I'm in Studio 318. I share this space with two other artists. And it is located in Midtown Harrisburg, right across from the Broad Street Market. And there are about 33 of us in terms of artists, and 21 studios here. And we do strive to present and showcase avant-garde work and educate people who are coming through here. It is open 6 days a week.
Yeah, yeah. And I wanted people to be aware of that, so that, you know, we really do have this art enclave right there in the heart of Harrisburg. So, yeah. So
Yes, we
let's
do.
get down into it. Maybe Dana wants to throw the first question out at you, but now we really want to delve into really what have been some of the obstacles, what have the, you know, that kind of thing. So Dana, you throw the first question at whoever you want to pick on. Okay.
So I'm going to go to Christina. Please unmute.
Get ready, Christina.
What are your greatest obstacles to your work as an artist? And are there special issues for female artists?
I would say greatest obstacle is that it's people's mindset that it's, well, I come from a culture that we're not used to expressing certain feelings and certain, you know, things that are happening. We are used to hiding things, you know, we're not used to exposing things. So when you come from that culture, that's where you were, you know, born and educated, and, you know, you still have ties to that culture. And then you are breaking up that culture by speaking or writing things that normally everybody wants covered. You know, I remember when I was going through the issue with my daughter, and it was like, everyone was like, okay, Christine, we will not talk about this. We will make it as if it doesn't exist. But now, fast forward years later, you're writing about it. You're talking about it. You know, you are saying out loud what we as a culture, as a community, are used to it being hidden. And that creates I want to say creates difficulties, you know, because, you know, people don't understand why you're doing what you're doing. They don't understand, you know, you don't get that support. The first time, I would say the first time my mom lives with me, the first time she actually heard me speak was with Joyce, right? When was that? I think it was Martin Luther King Day or something. We're talking about COVID, and and I started a poem about which was relating to COVID and AIDS, you know, HIV AIDS, how we in Africa, how it was a taboo, and how it affected, you know, it killed so many people because it was a taboo. And that was really the very first time my mom heard me speak up on something that's sensitive to us. And when I was done, she actually clapped for me. You know, yes, she was actually clapping, and she said, "That's a good point you made. Exactly, that's what we needed to hear." And it really meant a lot to me, because I was like, oh, finally, Ali, she's getting it. She's understanding that why I'm doing what I'm doing. The fact that it's purpose. Someone has to speak it. Someone has to say it. Someone has to be bold enough to say it. And I've taken upon that responsibility. So that's really the challenge. It's that fact that people don't understand why you're doing what you're doing and why you're speaking up and why you're writing the things you're writing. And that can really create sometimes friction in the family, in the community, because people really don't understand what you're doing.
Wow, that's really interesting. The fact that you're all in pursuing your art, not necessarily as a profession, but just as your own personal thing, there's a culture clash that could be going on.
Definitely. Some might think, well, Christine is just trying to be, show off, just wants to be on platforms and just wants to talk on things that really we shouldn't be talking about. But I always get encouraged by just that one person whose life will be different, that has heard what I have to say. That one impact, that one person that you would help by doing what you are called to do. So that's how I try to deal with those obstacles and those conflicts and friction.
Well, let's continue that theme. I like that idea of really what are the obstacles or cultural obstacles even. Donna, are you hearing that amongst the women artists that are in your caucus there? Is that an issue, or what are there other obstacles that we haven't addressed?
Looking at the organization, I think the biggest obstacle from that point of view is just mere representation across the board and opportunity. It's just because the way our society is structured, it's going to be mimicked across everything. So the less, or there's not as many opportunities given to women artists as there are for our male counterparts. So when the opportunity isn't given or provided or there, that decreases the representation, which also could make you feel that your voice is less valued. So I think that's like this larger thing and something that you have to push, and so that's one of the biggest obstacles that I hear across the board, being leading this organization. And the thing you have to do, or what we're doing, is you continue to make the work, you continue to talk about the work, and then you also talk to those people who have access to those walls, to those spaces, and question them as to why they don't have that representation there, and tell them why it's important to have it there. So that's the obstacle and a solution for the obstacle.
I like that. That's the engineer. You've got a problem, but fix it.
Yeah. I don't really fall well in what's the problem unless there's a solution with it.
There you go. I hear you. You. Well, Dina, who do you want to pick on next for that question? I'm going to let you do it.
Ashley Nicole.
All right.
I'm loving this conversation, and I'm gonna throw an added layer in there. I think it's challenging to have any gender-based art conversation without talking about some like practical things, right? I don't think I'll get an argument here when I make a statement that women's bodies and women's choices are often overly scrutinized, where men's bodies and choices are studied or admired. And people seem to be less hesitant to speak their opinions when it comes to women's bodies and women's artwork, right? I feel like the same way women have had to fight to have equal footing with men in a number of realms, the same can be said in corners of the art community, especially by those who aren't in the art community themselves, but they want to have an art experience or they want to own artwork. I find that females more often than males are asked to provide art services and artwork for free. It's as if people are more willing to pay men for their talents than they are women. And this same debate is happening right now outside the art community in the national conversation on equal pay, which I'm sure we don't want to get into here, but I feel like female artists share a kinship in that regard to females outside the art community. I think it's just an experience we all have everywhere.
You know, you brought up a good point. I hadn't thought about that. I'd like, Raina, do you feel that people who come will pay more for men's art and may consider them a greater artist than a lady's art? I mean, tell me what your experience is. That's a very good point, because it's documented that women make less. I mean, that's just the fact. It's so I wonder, does it translate into, oh, this is a great artist. Oh, but that's a woman, so she's just cute, right? I don't know.
Well, the short and sad answer is absolutely yes. A lot of people and their experiences with art have been from male artists. You learn this in art schools. You learn this even as children. When we went to the museums, the instructors, the teachers there, they guided us to male artists. They really did not discuss, when I was growing up in the 80s, the power of a woman artist. We're slowly kind of coming and shedding light and educating people on that. I've had, strangely, people actually approach me and say, oh, you don't paint like a woman.
Oh.
Now, right. Oh, how am I supposed to receive that? You know, in a male dominated industry where we're still fighting it. There's a pecking order. There's a pecking order, not only on the ground level amongst the artists, but the art institutions that we don't want to discuss. That we're still, female artists are still struggling to even have our work shown, even if the curators are women. They're put in a position to have to show certain work that is popular, that sells, that would gravitate, that would speak more to the masses. And so that needs to be discussed openly and honestly, that a lot of us, including me, the underground art scene, we're tired of having to pander to and conform to a male way of art, of drawing, of creating. We want to embrace our femininity and we want to love it. And we're not concerned if you enjoy it on the wall, okay? It's meant for everyone, okay? I no longer want to paint to please certain groups. And so this is why this discussion is important.
Well, you guys are they're really revealing a lot of important issues here, Dina. But I guess also one of the questions I want to ask Donna is, now you're pulling women together to try to tackle some of this. Have you made any progress? Is this getting anywhere? Or, I mean, you know, I'm just, where are we in this struggle?
Well, before I answer that, just hearing the answers from the previous question, it goes right back to why representation matters. When you have more voices out there to see our palettes, our visual palettes increase, and therefore these particular things that we say are, these are the more valuable, these are more, you know, liked, these are the main, that tends to go away. If we think about music, we have all these different types of music that we can listen to and have access to, which make us a richer person when you get to listen to music that are from the continents of Africa to all these different places like that. We need that kind of system for getting access to art, so representation matters in that way. But where are we going? I do see that there are definitely more women getting in the seats of making decisions about what can go on the walls. But there is that pull that Raina talks about of what is popular. So I feel once we get in these seats, like I'm in this seat, you have to decide, are you going to go with what's popular, or are you going to shift and say, let's open our minds to bigger and different and more? And even if you become unpopular in that process, right? So I do think that we are making changes. I do see it. Change takes time. And it's really becomes a thing for me as not just woman, but as a Black woman, that that even becomes more heavy, like representation in these two spaces. Like, is that how do we push forward or move forward? You got to have those conversations. Um, you have to make people recognize that, hey, we need the space too, and this is why. So I do feel like we are making some stride. Is it as fast as I want it? No. But I do see it coming. And then I'll say this, especially with what has happened in the past 2 years, as Black person, as woman, Me Too movement, Black Lives Matter movement, I do feel that people's eyes have been open. Unfortunately, I feel people's guilt has also made them make decisions that they probably should have made before the guilt hit. But those things are making progress. Now we just need to make progress because it's right. Like, we got to make that change in our hearts. And I think once we get there, I think it'll explode. But right now we're making decisions because it's politically correct, because it's guilt, because my eyes are just open, those kind of things. So
Wonderful. So we have 5 questions in the question box. So we're gonna jump in because this is a awesome conversation. So first question is to you, Ms. Jackson. I imagine most folks think of engineering as more of a precision-oriented profession than free-flowing. How has that translated to your art? Is it precise or free, or is that irrelevant?
oh yeah, my engineer practice definitely is seen in not in the art itself, but in how I get to the art, because I do some things over and over and over again because I'm trying to, it's a practice, I think that engineering mindset of time and deep dive research and trying things, all of that definitely happens in my art, and I do connect it back to the practices that I learned in being an engineer and loving math and loving science. I think it's all the same, really. There's no difference in when you start a painting. You go out, you do sketches, you research your color palettes, you research your subject. All of that is the same thing. I think what happens, and it might even happen in engineering, once you get in front of your canvas or whatever medium, there's a zoning, or I think there's a connection that happens with out here, as it might be spiritual, but for some people might call it, I'm in this zone. It no longer can be structured for me. There is this almost canvas speaking to you, brush speaking to you, paint speaking to you. And there's this communication that goes between me and the materials, and whatever is between me and the materials, that space, that spirit, that whatever. So I think the engineering practices gets me to the point till I get in front of my canvas. And then from there, whatever you believe, it's God, spirit, universe takes over from there.
Dina, before we leave that, because that's too profound, I want to let's let each one of them talk about that zone that she did, that creative process, zone out until I get this created kind of thing. So can we let them all talk about that?
Absolutely. Ashley.
Ashley, why don't you go first? I see her shaking her head.
I feel like that's so relevant. I want to sit with that. And I think Donna wrapped it up just beautifully. It's in the space, it's in the energy, right? And I peeked at the Q&A, and I know that my next question is, art versus analysis, and then, like, maybe I can answer them both. I don't know. I'm gonna try here. So for me, art, it's just for me. Art is about human connection, right? Art is a way to express when other methods of communication fail us. Art transcends. It speaks across gender, race, age, ability, and ableism, ableness, because you can feel it. And if you're feeling, to try to answer this next question, if you're feeling, then you're healing, right? And I believe you can experience healing not only through the creation of art and through accessing that space that Donna described, but you can also access that healing by experiencing or analyzing it as an observer, right? That's the whole purpose, is to, as an artist, I feel like we almost have a superpower that other people don't have. We have access to that space, and we have access to, not all of us were trained, right? Some of us were just born with that ability. And then some of us went to college and had class, and we learned tools, and we learned about, perspective and color. And, but regardless of how we got to that space, when we're in that space, it's surreal. And to be able to create from that space and put it out there, give someone else access to that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Let's sit on that for a second and just
Oh goodness, yeah.
all
Wow.
take that in. Yeah, I felt that one. How about you, Raina?
Wow. Thank you, ladies. For me, my darkest times have created some of the most beautiful and complex works of art. Many of us grew up in childhoods where we were told to be silent, you are seen and not heard. And I finally found the courage to break through that and put those emotions on canvas. A lot of times I found out it was myself that was in the way of my creativity. Many people have asked me, how do you create? Like, I don't have this in me. And I tell them, no, yes, you do. You have to break through that fear. The fear that we were all taught as children, that if it isn't perfect art, you're not an artist. If you are a bit off, or if you're autistic, or if you like to snap your fingers and listen and sing, and you have a rhythm to you, and all of a sudden, you need to hold that in because that's not what society is ready for. That is art, my friends. That's what I'm pushing for. Even adults, find that little child in you and break through and do it. You don't have to make money. Everything isn't always about money, making money off of your art. No. This is for yourself, for your soul. And so I encourage that. Use your emotions. It's the most powerful tool that God has ever given us.
I have to write that. If I could speak right now, I would have. Can you go back and say that again? It's for.
Okay, say which part again?
It's for yourself. It's for your soul.
Yes, it's for your
you.
soul.
Yes.
It's the best gift God has to me. Emotions are amazing. It's like a rainbow, and you've got to capture it. You've got to embrace it. Don't ever let anyone steal your rainbow, you know? That's how I see that.
Because that goes right into Christina, what she was talking about earlier, the cultural differences, the almost stay in your place difference.
Mhm.
Almost you're a woman. It's okay for you to be behind the curtain and have all of this wonderfulness, but the moment you step outside and you showcase it, it's like you almost have to dumb it down a bit. So
Mm.
Christina, can you share that with us? Like how you were able to to take, and you kind of shared it with us earlier, but share us, we want to share in your space right now.
Okay. Well, so I mean, uh, what Rena, right? Yes, my daughter's name is Renee, so I love that name. Yes, when Rena was describing, all those things that we do as kids, I just went back to my childhood when I used to sit and talk to myself. I used to have all these words come in, and I would find myself, imagine myself somewhere, and I'm having a conversation in my head. And really, like she said, I thought there was something wrong with me. And it's not until, no, seriously, and it's not until recently, because I really just started writing like 2 years ago. It's not until then that I realized that, wait, actually, those words I'm hearing, it's actually God that's communicating to me. Those words I'm hearing, they're supposed to be written down. So when we even talk about the zone, like I get up sometimes at 2 a.m. in the morning, and I have this, conversation going on in my head. It's like I'm talking, if you look at me like, nah, Christine is talking alone, because I'm having a conversation. And I have learned that I have to be conscious during that time. Like I have to take it seriously. That's the time when, I take my phone, I take my book, whatever is next to my bedside. I always have a book and a pen on my bed. I always do, because I'm like, I want to be ready when those thoughts, those ideas, when those words, really, those are what they are, when those words just come to me, so I can write them down. And that's my own zone. So that's my own zone. And yes, now it has opened my eyes, to understand a lot of those things that we see in children, especially, and we think that they are different. We think that there's something wrong with them, when really they are just artists, right? They are artists that are waiting for that medium to be able to express what they have in them. And yes, that is our soul. Like you said, it's all about our soul, and we are blessed. I can say that we are blessed to be able to express it. I really find joy when I speak. I find joy when I get in that zone, and a word comes to me and I write it, and sometimes I just put it on social media, put it on WhatsApp, and I'll have someone contact me. Wow, Christine, I was going through something and that word spoke to me. And I'm like, wow, if I had kept it to myself, or if I had tried to cover it and say, well, Christine, you're talking to yourself, you're going bad yet, but I realized, no, it's my soul that is talking to me, and it wants those words out so it can heal somebody else, so it can help somebody else.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, that question sure brought us a lot. That was a lot that came out there. But what also I noticed, we're talking about women as artists, but we're really talking about the artist personality, period. You guys have something special that stirs you to create. And like Raina talks, that also pushes past the boundaries of what the rest of us consider to be normal or acceptable even, or you're causing our minds to blow out and reimagine new worlds, new realities, right? Woo! You got me going, guys. Dina, is there another question you want to throw
There
at them?
is.
Okay.
There is, and based and what, see, this is a perfect segue. So what Christina just said, we're going to go to Raina because the next question is, does your Venezuelan heritage not call to you at all, or has it entered into your art to some extent?
It has definitely found its way into my art. And I remember someone telling me a long time ago that your bloodline will call you. You don't know when, you don't know how. It'll call you. You have to allow it. Give yourself some time because I couldn't connect with it as a child. But the older I got, and when I started to create work, I was choosing a color palette very similar to South American art. And I love the food, I love the music, I have the energy, and it shows. And so, yes, it's kind of when many of us are put in a situation where we are now biracial and we feel kind of torn between which worlds we should kind of be involved in. I love Afro art. I love the Spanish work, but I like them both. And so I want to reflect that. I want to open up the dialogue to both sides of my culture. I want to bring them together as well too. And so yes, it's definitely out. Okay, I'm out, everybody. I'm Venezuelan and African American. There's no question about that.
And I'm going to tell
Yeah.
everybody.
I'm international. Thank you.
But that goes to say about not only just our heritage, but it speaks volumes of who has always been in our corner, right? As far as our lineage is concerned, right? It's like that those hidden whispers where something in your belly that's stirred up and you don't know how you're connected to it, but you're connected somehow. Like there's an audience of individuals in the atmosphere that are clapping for us all now because we're speaking truth into, we're owning it. We're owning it. And I am loving this conversation. We're going to go into the next question, if I may. And the other question is, how many artists in Harrisburg make a living solely on their art? How supportive is the community? That's why we're here today. And do most artists have to go to Philly, or this is a good question, Philly or elsewhere to make a living? Who wants to take that? I'm going to call on, go ahead, Raina.
Okay. Yes. I made the decision a couple of years ago to pursue my art full time. This was before COVID. COVID created a lot of new challenges for me. I enjoy traveling outside of this area. I'm well received outside of the Harrisburg area, sadly. It's a bit of a popularity contest sometimes about who is collecting the artwork or if they feel comfortable with the artist, what is the artist's background, and what have not. There needs to be more of a cohesive organization that assists underground artists financially so that we're able to create studios, paints, canvases. These things cost money. I've been very blessed. People have assisted me along the way to continue, but many times I've wanted to actually give up. Many times I've asked myself, why didn't I go and get my MBA? Why didn't I go to graduate school? Because this is rough. This is not, I don't want to glamorize this life, okay? I'm speaking from the street artist too, okay? We have to create, but it's a struggle. I've carried artwork on buses, trains, I've sold in bars. I have had to do my hustle to be where I am. So, we need to really start to identify ways sources on how to assist new artists, especially.
Right. Well, that raises the issue. I know there are many programs in the state that provide grants to artists, but it does raise this issue. And I know Ashley and Christina are not necessarily doing this as a profession, but between Raina and Donna, it does raise the issue of this clash between having to earn a living at your art. And as you guys started talking about really wanting to be your art to simply be this expression, because if it's not popular, it's not going to sell, right? So Donna, talk about that clash that necessarily is there between wanting to be able to have the money to continue, and yet you got to conform in some ways, right?
Oh man. uh, I don't even know what to say. So there's a few things I think about this particular thing. I think there's a difference in artists as career and artists as art as a calling, and you can be one or the other or both, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you decide to be artist as career, there's a part of you that has to treat it in that way. That means you have to get the background that you need. You have to connect with certain organizations. You have a particular road artists as career must do. Artists as calling, all artists as purpose, artists that's another thing. And I think that's an instinctual, spiritual, very much getting moved to do certain things type of space. And you have to know when you're in those spaces, one, other, or both. I think if you as an artist get that clear with yourself, then you can define success for you. I think you can then define, can I be an artist and be an engineer? Yes. And still be an art. Yeah. So I think we have to look at that. Like, is an artist that does it full-time career, is that a successful artist? If that's how that person defines it, then yes. If that person, if for me, I would love for my whole life to be just completely art. But part of me is like, really? Would you really want that for yourself? So, but do I consider myself a successful person in the arts? And I would say absolutely. So I think artists must understand that there's these two roads: artist career, artist as a calling. Decide which ones you are in, make decisions based off of that. What does success look like for you? I know you all are in Philadelphia, but that whole thing about popularity, that's across the board, right? Even in all points of life, the popular thing is the one that gets the attention, gets the money, get the this and that. If that's what you want as success, you have to work for that. That's on you. But I just think if each and every one of us has to make a defined success for us, and sometimes we'll reach it and then we can redefine it, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that's the mix. And personally, for me, it is a calling, the art for me. So I'm in that space of I'm creating platforms in this way of it's a calling. Mm-hmm. I actually feel that art itself is more valuable than money, and that sometimes we're giving up the most valuable thing for the least valuable thing. And you have to, and so that, and then, but that's my definition. Other people may feel different. So again, art as career, art as the purpose or calling, you can be both. Define your own success in those two categories of spaces.
And Christine and Ashley, I'm assuming, or maybe I'm assuming wrong, that if it really earned a living, that's all you would do is art, or is that not true, Ashley? Would you only write and only be a photographer? If that, would you not do the 9 to 5 thing if you could make a living over here?
You know, it's a really hard question. And I don't know. I don't know the answer. I think part of the struggle for me is that my career, which is crime victims advocacy, is so incredibly rewarding. And I feel called to do that as well. So I feel called in two different directions. I feel very blessed and fortunate that I've got to do both. You know, when I do retire from state government in 9 years, not that I'm counting, I do intend to do nothing but art, right? Like,
Okay.
so that I'll be there someday. And I'm blessed to be in that position, but that's not reflective of most artists, and that's not reflective of most people. And sometimes doing art can be really dark. I think it was
Yeah,
Raina that
Raina.
said,
Mhm.
you know, some of my best artwork came out of my darkest moments. And that's so true. I think we create, you know, we enter that space that Donna was describing so often because we've got demons to exercise, right? We've got things that we need to kind of expel out of us. And so if you're an artist who has existed in that space and that's where your best artwork comes from, and, you know, we're all kind of driven to always outdo our previous best, right? I've heard so many artists say that they're called back to that dark place, right? So my best artwork came out of these really dark times. So if I want to keep creating my best artwork, I have to go back to those dark times. And that's certainly true for me in some cases. And I don't know that I'd want to exist in that space all the time.
Wow, that's really good. Because guess what? Joyce ain't in no dark space ever. She refuses to be there. That's why I'm not going to be a great artist. I ain't there. Get away. Christina, go ahead.
I mean,
No, but what I'm saying is that's the bravery of the artist. The artist will go there and will deal with that, right?
Mhm.
Right. And that is courage. That is really courage. Go ahead, Christina.
Yes, I mean, I really like what Donna was sharing about, I never heard it said that way, and it really hit, hit home the message. And I consider myself as an artist by calling, by purpose. So I make the books, but I would go around trying to sell them, but that's not really like, I'm not like, okay, I have to sell this copy. I don't have to sell this copy, because it's really all about the message going out and, reaching the person or the people that need to be able to get the message. And I remember when we're talking about popularity, I remember once asking a fellow artist who writes to, and I was like, wow, I'm not selling enough books. Like, what's your secret? Happen to sell books? And the person was like, well, they write books based on demand. That's how they explained it to me. So, there's a demand, you write the book, then you can now go and market it based on that demand. And I was like, because difficult to do, because again, I write from the zone, right? That's how the writing comes. I have to feel it. I have to be passionate about it. Almost like the dark side. I have to be in that position, in that place, to be able to express it. And I'm like, I can write because something is in demand and things like that. That everybody has, like I said, everybody has, what works best for them. But back to your question, Joyce, no, I'm like Ashley, I don't think that I could do this like all day and just be focused on it, because I do like other parts that I'm working on, non-profit and even business. It's just a balance, and that's me. So at this point, yes.
May I ask
Dana, you wanted to say it. Go ahead.
I do, because we're talking about a dark space. For 2 years, we were in dark space.
Yeah.
And the motto was, we're all in this together. Did you feel like we were all in this together? Has the COVID pandemic brought special challenges? We're talking about it. but do you see things getting better? I mean, because we're still in a pandemic, right? And some people will think that we're post, but the variants are coming and it's that roller coaster ride. But as an artist, we talked about the dark space, the darkness. You guys lived in that for 2 years. How were you able to even find yourself through the darkness? Oh, I have to pick someone. Raina.
I think you do.
Yes, yes, yes. These were the darkest of times. And not just from a creative standpoint, but from an individual standpoint, from being in a space with other people for long periods of time that you weren't expecting to be part of. Many of the events that we have as artists are interactive, but within maybe, a 3 to 5 hour span. Okay. So, and when that was taken away from us, I found it hard to create. To be honest with you, I started watching the news every day. I was even in the mindset of stockpiling things. To me, I didn't see art as the solution until it continued forward, and it just dragged on and on. And I told myself, I have to do something. If this is the end of the world, my art has to live, it has to teach, it has to inspire whoever is invading this planet. I was not going to leave Earth without creating something, a message to show that I'm grateful. This was nice. I'm sorry it ended like this. That was my mindset. Thank God I was wrong. And here we are. It's getting a lot better. It's getting a lot better. They are happy to be around artists. They're like, woo, thank God your studio is open. We've been traveling. We're happy to interact with different people. How was your life? I mean, I see a newness in people's spirit right now. Definitely.
That's what I was getting ready to say. They're probably seen in a different lens, right? Because we were all closed in and isolated. And now we're looking forward to seeing something fresh and something new. So how about you, Ashley? Did you find yourself in like a different headspace when we were allowed outside?
Yeah, I mean, I can't talk about the pandemic without saying that it was a very special version of hell for those of us who have children. Like, it was just insanity. Okay, I have 3 boys. Trying to homeschool them at the beginning and work. And I mean, thank God my mother lives a mile away, because she would drive over to our house and she would teach gym class on the front lawn just so that I would get like a 20-minute break. Yeah. So I feel like the pandemic was challenging for everybody in different ways, right? Like, I'm not saying my reality was worse than anyone else's. It was just mind numbing. But it also opened a lot of minds to the benefits of art. Like, I've heard from so many people, so many people were isolated and they sought solace by doing art activities for the first time in their life. And I've heard from so many folks that it kept them sane, it kept them active, and so many conquered a fear of engaging in art. And now they're taking art classes and they're visiting galleries when they had zero interest in any of that before. So, I mean, I never want to go back to those days. But if there's a silver lining, I think, it did push some folks into discovering art and accessing art. And that's kind of groovy, if you ask me.
Yeah, I can dig it. What about you, Donna? Did you start seeing an influx of people, showing up?
I agree with Ashley about people, new faces coming into gallery space, and I love that. I also know that as curators, as people that create exhibits, we were showing this work online in different ways or even more, which also made people more comfortable about coming into those spaces and seeing the art firsthand. So that was a plus in the art industry with that. And so I agree with that. I feel definitely sorry for parents who have kids. Like my sister's a teacher, and so I heard all of that. And it's unfortunate for my family. We've got aunts and uncles like myself that were there to support those that had younger kids. So kudos for parents who have to go through that. I'm going to say for myself though, the rhythm of the slower rhythm of the pandemic, the slower rhythm of life that happened because of the pandemic was one I have to say I cherished. I feel like it allowed us to assess what was going on in our life and what was meaningful and what was meaningless. And I hope that some people probably kept the meaningless stuff out. I'm seeing the world going back to this, and I try my best not to allow myself to get back into that. Not to say that I was in it. I think I had anxiety from the world being around me being like this, and it finally came to my pace for at least a year and a half. Then I feel it going back up, and I'm trying not to get the anxiety for it speeding up. So as you were going crazy, Ashley, I was actually like, wow, the fast pace of the world around me was what was giving me anxiety, and I feel free for the first time in a while. So that was my taking out the fact that we were losing people. That's the unfortunate part of this. But the plus was it allowed us to reassess our life and our lifestyle. We need to change it. Like that was part of it. And we need to slow down. Was definitely another part of it. Yeah.
And finally, Miss Christina, what about you? Did you find more things to write? Your poetry, did it blossom more?
Well, like when I was saying during the pandemic, everybody was, faced, give or take, with the same, fears and concerns. And as an artist, of course, that is going to reflect in your work, is going to reflect in what you're writing. And for a while, I was that dark side, not seeing an end to this. And that would be, I would reflect in what I was writing, what I was saying. But as time moved on, I had to really re-examine my own self, because as artists, we also have a role to play in the community, in people's life. It's not just having something out there. It's really the lives you're going to touch by what you're doing. You have to have that always. Anyway, I try to always have that in my mind, that what is the aim of this? Like, am I trying to uplift somebody? Am I trying to empower somebody? Am I trying to help somebody? Or am I trying to scare somebody? So I had to question my own faith. And so as I questioned my faith, it's sort of now started changing what I was writing, because now I could now say, okay, yes, we're going through this pandemic, but we can still have hope. And I finished writing my book on purpose, the first one, right? I think it was September 2020. And it was tough writing that last chapter because I didn't want it to end in a dark note. I mean, it's about purpose, right? Purpose is what gets us excited, because that's our calling. That's who we are. So how can you end it on a sad note? But that was a reflection of me at that time. So I had to take a break from writing and, really start working on my own faith, my own perspective, trying to understand. And like when I said, I realized that this is a gift I have, and I have to use it. If the world well, which will come to an end, but if it's to end today, I should be at that point where I know I was able to use my gift. I was able to be purposeful. I was able to fulfill my calling. So I sort of, when I walked, I dwelled on that for a little while. I was now able to be at peace with everything and had to do the change the ending into something like, yes, we are in a pandemic, but we all still have a purpose and we have to fulfill that purpose. That's it.
Well, ladies, you guys have really shared a lot with us today. I had no idea that the conversation would go to the depths that it has gone, but it has truly been enlightening and inspiring. We have gone over, but I'm still going to, end it perhaps with asking you each to quickly just answer one final question. And that is, if your community, the people who claim to love you and art, if there was anything that we could do, what would you suggest we do? And now remember, not everybody has the $3 million to buy your paintings. All right. But tell us, clearly buying your work is one thing, but what is it that would encourage you in your communities? So who you want to start with, Dina? Let you do the final selection.
So why don't we go to my right, and we'll go to Raina, and then Christina, and then Donna, and then we'll end it with Ashley.
Okay.
Raina.
Well, again, thank you, ladies. This was amazing. I learned a lot, and I see a future with all of us together soon. For me, I ask people, please take a moment and come and visit the artists. Get to know us as people. I understand that we are different, but we do not bite. We do not bite, okay? We need for you. We need you. We need your dialogue. We need your love. We want to work with the world. So please, yes, it's nice that you can purchase our art, but we also want you to embrace the art, embrace our movement. So my hashtag that I use, Artists Unite. That is how I feel. I am here to unite us all, and so that we can enjoy art forever. Thank you very much. God bless.
All right, there you go.
Yeah, so yes, I'm going to just piggyback on what Rena said. So definitely meet the artist. I really get blessed when someone gets my book and reads it, and then we have a discussion about it, and they say, you know what, Christine, what you wrote about this, what you said about this is how I interpreted it, this is how it spoke to me. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm learning too, we're both learning, because not the fact that I wrote about it, the fact that I'm speaking about it doesn't mean I'm an expert. It's just because that's my own purpose. So write and speak about it, but share with me what you got from it. What was your own inspiration? What did it, how did it speak to you? Let us have that conversation, like Rena said, because that's how we enrich each other. That's how we bless each other. That's how we grow together as a community. Thank you, Joyce. Thank you, Dina.
You're welcome. Thank you, Donna.
I like both of those. Definitely. I would like for my community, we go back to that popularity mindset. What is popular? I want people to go beyond popular, because that's where you really get to learn and to experience. So don't get to, love the popular art or whatever is told to you is the popular, and take that time and go beyond the first page of Google, please, to look and find more artists to love and to enjoy. And I tell you, once you do that, you'll never stop wanting to go to the galleries and to spaces where art lives. So, and I thank you for giving me this chance to be here and to meet these beautiful people and talk about their stories as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Beautiful souls here. And Miss Ashley.
I think my ask would be that everyone remains open to the fact that every artist is on their own unique journey. Which ties a little bit into what Donna said about popularity, right? Like we're all humans are on their own unique journey, and all artists are really on their own unique journey. And you may not understand a particular piece of art, but we should all appreciate it, because what you're really looking at is a piece of someone's soul.
Absolutely. Well, ladies, I think we've achieved what we set out to do. First of all, we wanted to give you a platform so that you could speak to our communities. And when I say our communities, it's a global community, because people will be watching this from all over the world, all over the country, and right here in our own area. But you've also shared your souls. And that is really, really powerful. I'm sure people who will tune in will be impacted tremendously. And so what we will do, what we promise to do, is spread this video, make sure that a lot of people see it. I hope to write about an article about this experience and what you've shared today. And we will look for other opportunities to continue to lift up our artists and to encourage our community to support them. So with that, I want to really thank Dina. She did an excellent job in her debut as a co-host. Bravo, Dina. Thank you. Yeah, very much. She may be doing this alone next time, and I can sit back and enjoy it. But all right, thank you guys so much. And I really hope that when we call you again, because we will, that you will respond as graciously and as openly as you have today. So with that, thank you to all. Enjoy the rest of your evening. We love our artists. Bye-bye.